football and other F words.
Hey,
it's been a while. We should have played some Stained on the way in. Of
course, been a while.
I've heard that we lack music rights for the podcast to be able to do that. Is that right, Jackson? It's producer Jay Wills behind the glass.
They will rip us off the internet so quickly.
There you go. We're just ripping people off the internet.
I never knew
they
that.
don't have bigger concerns on the internet than us playing Stained.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how any of that stuff works, but I don't want them. I don't want anybody busting in here with handcuffs.
Yeah.
Speaking of Stained, Easton Freeze did a great hit on cover 2 today.
He did.
Easton Freezed.
Yeah, he apparently his router literally shit the bed.
Yeah.
It literally just crapped all over his bed, kind of like he crapped his pants.
I feel so bad in those situations because I hate it. Like, there's nothing you can do about it in the moment, and you're just stuck. You're just stranded on air. Like, you guys trying to scramble, like, okay, well, we can't just sit here and describe our technical malfunctions while Easton's trying to get right, but Easton's trying to figure out what's going on. It's just such a hot mess. It's like, you know what, it's like divorce. Nobody wins.
Nobody wins. That's true. Stoney Keeley giving out life advice over here across from me. You can follow him on Twitter at Stoney Keeley. You got SoBrosNetwork.com, Nashville Movie Dispatch, Substack, StackingTheInbox.com.
Yep.
Football and Other F Words, Hot Read Podcast on the 440 Sports Network. Then we got Jay Wills behind the glass. Of course, I'm Zach Lyons. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Lord's time. I'd like to start with this. Ask me how I know I have rabbits in my yard.
How do you know that you have rabbits in your yard?
So, I don't know. You're a cat guy, and I'm sure it's probably maybe a little bit similar, but dogs have they smell out everything, and Havana is a bloodhound. And she is my youngest. She is she just smells everything. She can smell anything from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep seeing her stick her face in the grass, smelling the area, all that kind of stuff. And then today I realized that she's just been eating rabbit shit.
Damn. Caught her in the act?
I mean, I'm like, what is she eating? And I look down there and I see just rabbit turds. So got to raise the fucking shit eater. Like, what is this?
I mean, sometimes, like, you just gotta, you know?
You gotta figure it out.
I go downstairs in the middle of the night sometimes.
To eat some rabbit shit.
I'm hungry as shit. I can't find anything. You know, I'm not going to cook a big meal at midnight, but maybe the snack bag is empty. It's just like stale popcorn and like my wife's snacks that I don't like. Like, you know what? I'm just going to have to tough it up and eat this shit.
You just got to tough it up. Okay.
She goes out there. Maybe there's no bones in the backyard, but man, I guess these rabbit pellets will do.
I guess so. I mean, she eats bark. She eats bugs. She's killed 2 birds.
Mm-hmm.
She's grabbed them out of the sky and killed them.
That's kind of hard, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it was pretty impressive. I mean, she's something. She's something. But now she is a shit eater. So there you go. All right. Oh, where to start, Stoney?
I don't know. I've been on vacation, and I'm excited to be here tonight to just hear like what the Titans have been up to for the last week.
I don't feel like you've really missed anything.
I logged in to Twitter one night, and I saw people saying Treylon Burks was back, and then I said, I fucking hate it here, and I logged off.
Yeah, I would agree. He's thick. I mean, we're talking thicker than normal. He's thicker than normal. It looks like he's wearing layers. But I don't think he's wearing layers.
You think he's getting ready for a run at the Performance Center?
I mean, maybe
WWE called?
Maybe he's going to be a tight end. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
what a spin zone that would be.
Yeah, he does not. Listen, he's never been a guy that's touted a 6-pack and these ripped ass, jacked arms or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But it's worse.
Yeah,
it's gotten worse.
So that's
ripped
my ass.
Ripped ass arms.
Oh, okay. I was trying to put that one together. Like, wait,
he doesn't have thick thighs or anything. I mean, he has thick thighs, just in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Coach Will says it best. Burks' video made me sick. I agree.
Damn, Coach Will's, hang in there, buddy.
It's just,
it's May.
I mean, I get that it's May, and I get that people want a former first round pick, but we just got to accept reality here.
Yeah.
And listen, I saw a tweet from A to Z. It was Austin and Ryan Roberts in the morning show. And they said something, Treylon Burks is back ahead of schedule or something. And I just sent it to Easy. I go, LMAO. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And then people actually, there are reporters that actually took the time to craft questions about fucking Treylon Burks. I don't know how many are on your list, Jackson, because he got 61 audio clips, Joseph did. Jackson did. He hates cutting audio for me, so I have to rely on Joseph. There's like 3 or 4 at least different questions to different people about Treylon Burks.
Man. But that's how it goes.
And I feel like we've talked too much about Treylon Burks, but I just have to talk about other people to talking about Treylon Burks.
Yeah. It feels like that's how this kind of thing goes, though. There's like a viral clip from an OTA in May or in June.
And I blame the Sleeper Titan Twitter account.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of our audience member is the anonymous person behind this Sleeper Titan Twitter account, but delete your account.
If you're
be better. You fucking suck. I fucking hate that account.
If you're a Mission Impossible fan.
Jackson, is that not one of the worst accounts to pop up? Besides the every so often I'll get a Twitter follow from another Titans fan podcast that has shitty audio. And that is the worst account to have popped up in a long time.
If you're a fan of the Mission Impossible movies, Sleeper Titan is like the entity.
Yes.
It has to be stopped.
It has to be stopped. It doesn't credit properly, and it credits, but it doesn't credit the tweet. It doesn't link to articles. And then I see Easton's trying to fight this fruitless fight. He's trying to be Ethan Hunt, but like an Ethan Hunt that shits his pants. And he's putting his links under that, which just means that, yes, you're getting the stuff, but you're also you're accidentally legitimizing this shitty account. And I get that it has Sleeper associated with it, and they're doing it for every team, but it fucking blows.
It does.
It was like that Barstool Nashville one that was there for a while.
These aggregation accounts, I guarantee you, I would be willing to bet money that Sleeper put forth some shitty little style guide about this is how you do social media. This is what goes viral. This is how Doug
Kleiman does it, so you do it.
Exactly. So go out there and do it, and it's probably some like intern just following orders, but I don't know.
We probably have just ripped to shreds some 18-year-old.
It's like I'm just doing what I'm told, trying to get into the sports talk industry.
He's just trying to get his foot in the door. We just totally decimated him.
We're on here like, this dude needs his ass beat.
Long story short, don't follow that account.
Yeah. Zach's first word to the poor kid, you fucking suck.
Technically, it was be better than you fucking suck.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that's great advice for a lot of people. Be better. I think
better.
that and go fuck yourself. I guess. I don't
be better and go fuck yourself. Yeah.
Like I don't know. I can't handle these accounts, but like this Treylon Burks shit. Like, why are we spending time asking about Treylon Burks? I mean, he's not making the team.
No, I don't.
And he's
I don't
obviously
think so.
not going to be on the PUP list because that's what we all thought. And everybody's like,
but now he's back.
Are you pleased that he's behind? He's ahead of schedule? Like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, I don't. And now it's all the rumors. Like all these teams are wanting to trade for a receiver. They want to add a weapon, and everybody's like, oh, maybe they can get something for Treylon Burks. But
listen, if you get something for Isaiah Wilson, you get something for Treylon Burks.
I mean, that's true. But like, we gotta give up the ghost, I think.
Yeah. Titans fans have a real hard time giving up the ghost.
Yeah.
There was a couple days ago, it may have just been yesterday, where Lucas, it was yesterday because Will Levis ended practice throwing a pick six, and I've heard rumors that people are getting into DMs if you write an article about it. So someone's getting in our DMs later.
Yeah.
But he threw a pick six at the end of practice. I don't care whose fault it is. It's just objectively funny that that's how he ends practice.
Yeah.
And at the time that we transitioned from the Buck Rising show with the much better duo of Lucas Panzica and Bert doing the show solo, apparently a bunch of people called in talking about, Will Levis, is this a real competition? Blah, blah, blah. Like, let me tell you something. It's a competition between him and Brandon Allen. And him and the trade deadline. That's the competition. The competition ain't between him and Cam Ward. But there's, the Will Levis truthers are still out there, chasing that ghost. And it sounds like Will Levis has given up on himself, and these fans are not giving up on him.
The media scrum, his demeanor, his body language is just. It seems like he's just letting himself go.
Yeah, not like Treylon Burks, but in a different situation.
Yeah, he's
in a
just
different way.
It's almost like a bad breakup.
I will say this: Easton did say he looks a lot less thick. A little bit skinnier, and I wonder if he's not eating because he's depressed.
I mean, listen, like we've all been there before.
Yeah.
I've had a really bad breakup, and if it weren't for the 2010 classic film MacGruber, I wouldn't have made it through.
Yeah.
I wasn't eating there for a couple of weeks. I was just drinking tequila. It's like what I was running on.
Stoney, you're a fellow MacGruber head?
I am. I love MacGruber.
MacGruber's great.
Underrated flick. It gets a bad rap, but I would rotate.
Did you watch the series on Peacock?
No, I never did. I want to go back.
Can you really call yourself a MacGruber?
Well, I don't have time for a series. I can watch a movie every once in a while.
Gotcha.
But MacGruber, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Tequila.
Yeah.
And I probably if you had interviewed me, I probably would have sounded like Will Levis.
Yeah, it was very depressing. And I
want to know about Tim Boyle.
I actually did legit kind of feel bad. For
I
Will
did
Levis.
I did too.
And then I remember he got paid $5 million to totally derail an entire team's 2024 season. So,
and I mean, he's probably going to go somewhere like the Rams, sit for a year. Stafford's going to retire, and then he's going to get another crack, and we'll see what happens then.
There you go.
He could be the next Sam Darnold.
Yeah, this is chasing the ghost thing. This is Will Levis competition. And then now there's just this extra layer of narrative on it that you can't talk about the backup quarterback situation.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
I must have missed
because people are so enthralled with Cam Ward that I guess maybe Cam Ward will never be injured in his career.
Oh yeah. I see.
So maybe they just think that their Titans are only going to keep one quarterback. Maybe they think they would.
Excuse me?
I mean, I don't know. I just find the whole conversation illogical in the sense that if they cannot find a trade partner for Will Levis, which based on his 2024 tape, hey, maybe so.
Careful.
Yeah. Maybe there's a possibility that they're not going to find a trade partner. He's going to be quarterback 2 on this team.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. As we have seen over the years, quarterback 2 is probably going to find his way on the field during the game at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with the extra game.
Yeah.
They're wanting to add another one.
So, you guys got to buckle up. It's trade or backup. It's not, there's no cut.
Yeah.
Cut is not in the option. And that's just the reality of the NFL. That's the reality of the backup quarterback position. Because let me tell you something. Brendan Allen and your boy Tim Boyle, they stink. They have stunk every stop that they've made. It doesn't matter who their offensive coordinator was. It doesn't matter if he was paired with Kyle Shanahan. Brendan Allen is not good. Will Levis, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, Will Levis is better than Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. I'd rather have Will Levis go into a game because everybody's like, well, you don't want your quarterback to, make mistakes. Well, go watch Brandon Allen. He makes mistakes.
What about this idea that they're assets because of what they do on the whiteboard in the meeting rooms?
Well, that's all well and good when maybe the NFL will make a special concession when Cam Ward misses a game. The game will be won on the whiteboard. No defenses. They just will out 2 whiteboards, and they fucking Goodwill Hunting it out on the field, just solving equations.
We'll have the opposing defensive coordinator put their play up.
Yeah.
The quarterback runs what
we
they
time
would run.
Like chess.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Goodwill Hunting meets chess.
It's like, oh, well, on this play, the wheel route's going to open up in the soft spot between these 2 zones because you sent the safety over here, so boom, point for the offense.
Yeah, Coach Will says, I thought this was a Tim Boyle support group. It is for when Tim Boyle's cut, he'll need one.
What if they just make him a coach? They're like, we don't want to cut you, but we've got this.
We'll hire you. Well, they hired a run game defensive coordinator. Did you know this?
No,
Travis Smith. Yesterday during Denard Wilson's press conference, he says, we hired 2 new coaches on the staff. And I remember Tony Oden.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, who's the second one? And then it was the defensive line coach for the Bears from 2022 to 2024 as their run game defensive coordinator.
Man, I mean,
and I'm like, well, and there were people that actually tweeted it.
Yeah.
I mean, they announced it. I just totally fucking missed it.
I mean, listen, they need some help with the defensive run game support.
Yeah, so
maybe Tim Boyle could be the quarterback passing game support.
Yeah. I can't read that, Z-Dean. Okay, let's just start with the defense. Let's go to some let's go to some Denard. Let's go to some Denard Wilson. Let's start with clip 35 here with Denard Wilson, and I'll set up the clip while he gets it pulled up. So I thought this was really interesting on what he had to. Did you listen to the pressers at all?
Nope.
Oh, good. So you're in the first to hear this. This is going to be good. He talked about Arden Key's next evolution that he has seen of him as a player. So here's Denard Wilson on Arden Key.
It's funny, Arden has been kind of a little bit dialed back as of right now. You know, to speak of Arden, I love where he's at right now. He's taken a leadership position with the people in the group. I think he's maturing on and off the field, and you just see it every day. It's like, you know, we talk about each one, teach one, and he's one of the first guys that's teaching the young guys how to be better, what to do, you know, the tricks of the trade, things he's messed up throughout his career. So where Arden's at right now, and I love where he is, he's still loud, but Femi is a little bit obnoxious with his communication.
So that was building on, you know, talking about Femi Oladejo's energy and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that now we have seen a different Arden Key show up to camp, because he was the energetic, loud guy, the brash guy, the guy that you wanted to interview because he was going to say something funny and all that kind of stuff. And now he's become this more reserved leadership type that is teaching and all this kind of stuff. And that's what they've been looking for, from these players.
Yeah.
But I do think it was interesting in how he described it, and I do wonder how much of this is because he's in a contract year, though.
Ooh, yeah. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I like Arden Key. I think he was in a tough spot last year where they needed him to play outside of his wheelhouse a little bit. And it's not to say I don't listen. He was far from the last problem on that defense. Yeah. I think allowing him to kind of pin his ears back a little more and just rush the passer it is where he's most effective. But to hear, you know, I think if I'll put it this way, if you need somebody in that room teaching Femi Oladejo how to rush the passer, it's the thing that Arden Key is probably best at and best known for, is the toolkit.
Yeah.
Getting after quarterbacks. And so the dynamic there, you look at it, you think about it in that context, it's kind of like, okay, this could work. You know, he's not out there trying to teach him how to set the edge and defend the run, all that stuff, because I think Oladejo is pretty good in the strength department right now. But I don't know, to hear that, honestly, it kind of makes me wonder, like, why couldn't he have done that last year?
That seems to be my reoccurring theme with this whole year two of Brian Callahan and this staff and these players, is like, why didn't you guys do this last year? Why didn't they do the VR thing last year? The VR thing's been around since Drew Lock at Missouri. It's been around, I think, even further than that for like Nick Mullen, or I can't remember, it was Nick Mullen, or I think it was Nick Mullen down in San Francisco. He was using that all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's been around. Brock Purdy even uses it. So San Francisco's been using it. Like, why are we waiting until now to do something that could have been done last offseason? Because here's where I'm at. If I'm a head coach or a general manager, I'm using everything at my disposal to make teams better. I'm not thinking my way is the best. Like, look, I think Madden ratings are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Eric DaCosta has found some way to incorporate Madden ratings into their scouting process, into their algorithm and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, be ahead of the curve, not say, oh, we fucked up because we didn't do this, when this has been around for a while.
Everything, you and I have talked about this before, it's something that I believe in. Every bit of information you can obtain can be a breadcrumb to revisit the tape and look for something on tape to see if it's there, to find the context of it, or to go to a player in an interview situation and ask, to kind of get to the bottom of it and evaluate it. I think there's nothing wrong with leaving no stone unturned. Every bit of information you can acquire can help you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to knock a team for using something like Madden ratings.
Yeah. And to me, it's just like the Oculus stuff has been around for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, why are we waiting until now to do it? And I guess the way that Easton kind of phrased it was like, this is something that was on Cam Ward's radar because he talked to Jaden Daniels. Well, why is it not already on the coach's radar?
So I wonder, since we're just talking about this, and this might be for somebody that's actually in the room to answer, somebody that's actually talking to these coaches. You know, the idea in the NFL is like the best locker rooms are the ones that police themselves, so to speak. It's they're bonded. You don't have to really give them a lot of instruction. They're professionals. They take it seriously. They come together for one another in the right moment, and it's kind of a hands-off approach. And part of me wonders, and I wonder what your thoughts are on this, if you've had any conversations dealing with it, but do you think that maybe Brian Callahan and his staff came in year one thinking this is what pros are supposed to do, so we should be a little more hands-off in like forcing the team building, the team bonding, the stuff that players need to get better? Maybe we're just going to trust them to tell us, hey, we need this, we need that. We're going to otherwise keep our hands out of it and just let them bond and form their own cohesion. And now, after a 3-14 season, seeing that it never really gelled that way, now they're kind of correcting and saying, okay, we need to be more involved to make sure chemistry is building among our team, and we need to get involved to make sure stuff like the VR training is available and being taken advantage of by Cam Ward. And I don't know if it's available for other positions, but, you know, that sort of thing.
I think they definitely overvalued this roster in multiple different ways. And, and I think some of it's leadership, some of it's talent, some of it is where they were at in their progression and development. I think they overvalued everything because this is I don't think they really understood until they probably got into the thick of training camp.
Yeah.
And that's in July.
Well,
John Robinson really fucked us, and that first draft of Rand Carthon probably wasn't that great either.
Yeah, and you think about it just from the Will Levis standpoint, we've heard him talk about how high they were on him and how he said and did all the right things in the meeting rooms and on the practice field. And then when it came time for the live rounds, so to speak, it was like a deer in headlights.
Well, and also switched. Think about this, because you talk about this leniency. We talked about the players.
Yeah.
But also remember the coaching staff is that Mike Vrabel, everything flowed through Mike Vrabel. He was the ultimate micromanager, right?
Yeah.
Like when he first got here, he was asked about who are your leaders on this team. In 2018, when he first got here, I remember this was the big topic, the big talking point. He said, I am the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he always maintained that he was the leader. Now, Kevin Byard became a leader himself, and other guys developed, but they had time to develop because everything was under Vrabel. And so I think that when you take that authoritative kind of like nature away from everybody, they seem very aimless, right? Like you look at like when dictators are supplanted, how many times have we seen like the republic or the civilization struggle without that dictatorship when they're left to their own devices? They eventually get there.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these times is that you take away that power figure, and the only way that some of these players have ever known and ever been coached, they don't know. Because, I mean, like I said, the ultimate micromanager. He micromanaged the coaches. He micromanaged the scouting staff. He wanted Isaiah Wilson. Let's not forget that he wanted Isaiah Wilson. He wanted Arden Key. He pushed Peter Skoronski. Sorry, not Arden Key. I meant Andre Dillard. He pushed Peter Skoronski really hard. Like all those things he was a huge proponent of. And then you take that basically that micromanagement away.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of people that don't know how to function without the guiding hand of someone all the time telling them what and what not to do.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like that. It's the benefit of hindsight, obviously, to look back on the 2024 season leading up to it.
Mike Vrabel's burner. I hope this is. I would say that this is maybe really Mike Vrabel. He says still blaming J-Rob at this point is not just one, except Amy made mistakes firing him and Vrabel. Amy absolutely did not make a mistake firing either of those guys. Now, you can say that she made mistakes hiring certain people, but let me tell you something. J-Rob stunk. And the state of the roster from ever since he drafted Isaiah Wilson all the way to the last draft class of Treylon Burks, he stunk. He stunk in free agency. He stunk in every level of the draft, except in his last good draft was 2019. He left a roster vacuum that was terrible. Now, I'll blame Amy because maybe she didn't hire the right guy.
Yeah.
And replacing him. And a guy that didn't get it back on track quickly, because we've seen that Mike Bergonzi on paper is getting things back on track quickly.
Seems like it.
But we got to understand the reason why 2023 and 2024 continue to get bad without J-Rob is because he left a nuclear wasteland of talent.
He did.
It was a fucking disaster of a roster.
Yeah. For three,
and Mike Vrabel's partially to blame, and you can already see signs of Mike Vrabel being partially to blame up in New England.
I know. Yeah, it's that's easy to say when the result of that is a 3-14 season, but I just think it's way too. It's oversimplifying the issues, and it's taking results at face value without really examining the context of how the Titans got there and everything, the years that led to this thing bottoming out in 2024.
Years. I mean, years of terrible drafting.
I mean, do we need to relive those classes for people?
No.
I mean, I can't off the top of my head, but
I probably could because there's so much hate. I mean, let's not forget that Des Fitzpatrick, Rashad Weaver, Racy McMath, Brady Breeze year.
Yeah. So, I mean,
give me a fucking break.
Is Roger McCreary like the only one left from those three draft classes?
From the 2020 to 2022 draft classes, Chig.
Burks.
Chig, Burks, and McCreary.
Yeah. And
I still, bona fide NFL starter.
I still don't know if this coaching staff knows what to do with Chig. I don't know if Chig knows what to do with Chig. I don't know what he is.
I think they know what to do with Chig.
Yeah?
Yeah. Limit his reps and give him to Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's what they're doing.
So, yeah, Roger McCreary is the only, out of 3 years, 3 draft classes, Roger McCreary, your slot corner. Your slot corner is
you want him gone.
I do not want Roger McCreary gone.
But to bring him back home, I love that Arden Key is developing into a role. Now, you talked about what he can teach that he knows, but he also can teach stuff like, here's what not to do.
Yeah.
Because he's had a career of up and downs. He had a rough start, a rough end to his college career, rough start to his pro career. That's also that stuff, here's what not to do if I'm you, Femi, when you're rookie year, and here's what you need to focus on. Here's what I wish I would have focused on. It's huge. That's why it's so important for these vets to be there because, now you got Jeffrey Simmons not even showing up. We'll get to that later. Let's go to Denard Wilson on 36 on about why someone asked a question. Nick Suss asked it to Brian Callahan, but then they asked it to Denard Wilson. I think Denard Wilson gave a more thorough answer because it's from the defense side of the ball. But why they went with thicker, bigger edge rushers.
It's a big man game. And, in order to play in this game, you gotta crush the pocket, condense the pocket, you gotta collapse the pocket. You have elite pass rushers in the National Football League. They get paid a lot of money. But if you watch throughout the course of the playoffs and, during the Super Bowl, the guys that can collapse the pocket, that can knock it back in the A and B gaps and restrict it off the edge was the guys that was having success. It's no different than when you looked at Verse coming out last year and the way he produced for the Rams last year. So our intentions is to be more direct with the way we rush, have a more balanced approach, no step-up lanes, getting everybody to work as one up front. And we've have a hell of a start of doing that, doing out this OTAs in phase 1 and phase 2.
The step-up lanes thing, man, that was a big problem for them last year. They could get around and get upfield, but there was nothing there to stop the quarterbacks from just like stepping up and taking off.
So what do you think about that? Because we talked about this with Blaine a few times where like they got Lorenzo Carter, who has 0 sacks. I mean, they got Draymond Jones, who's like 5.5 sacks. And it sounds like to me with the way that they're describing the collapsing the pocket and pushing the pocket and all this stuff is like, okay, the sacks will come.
Yeah.
Essentially collapsing that pocket, maybe getting more opportunities at pass breakups, more opportunities for incomplete passes because you're rushing the quarterback, all that kind of stuff. Passes. All this will play into it because they're looking for – because Blaine said, when you go watch Lorenzo Carter's tape, he's not that bad.
Yeah.
He just can't get sacks. He's like Shamar Stewart. And it was like – and I think maybe that's why they kind of liked Shamar Stewart throughout the pre-draft process because I think they think – and I don't know if this will be true, but I think they think that if they collapse the pocket, the sacks will come. If they get enough pressure and rattle the quarterback enough, the sacks and the mistakes will come.
Yeah, absolutely, which I talked about last offseason with Denard's first season as defensive coordinator. What I think his defense that he wants to run is predicated off of is from interior pressure. It's like not giving up the big runs up the middle. It's forcing things outside. With quick linebackers that can like get to the flats and defend those running backs, corners that can play in man situation, and then using the safeties and the linebackers as sort of hybrid chess pieces to come around and create extra pressure. But it's predicated on that defensive front, that defensive line collapsing the pocket. And there were too many times last season that it felt like Sweat could potentially get home or Simmons could potentially get home, but they couldn't sync everything up with the edge rushers. The perimeter was pretty leaky, or, somebody Sweat gets double teamed and there's nobody else to help. And suddenly there's a hole a mile wide up the middle and nobody coming up in support to stop the run. So you look at a situation like that. And if you want more interior pressure to affect the pocket, collapse the pocket, move the pocket around, you do probably have to beef up a little bit from what you had last year. Get guys with a little more juice and a little more power.
Jackson, we're going to go to 38 and then 39, but we're going to do 38 first, talk about it. But this is about the Denard Wilson on the competition at inside linebacker.
Ooh.
It's extremely wide open. First of all, great addition getting Cody. He's a leader. He's a guy that can orchestrate the defense. He's ahead of it. He studies. He's smart. Love that we have him. But in terms of the other position, it's kind of everybody's getting an opportunity. We're rotating them. Cedric has played some Mike, have put Cody at the wheel a little bit when Ced's in there. James has been in there. Anthony, all the guys that we have played. And, right now they're getting a feel for the defense, understanding what they're supposed to be doing. But when the pads come on, they'll separate themselves, and the best man's going to play. And then also we talk about position flexibility. Some guys can do things better than others. So there's always a chance of first and second down having players out there. You can have third down, dime linebacker, whatever it may be. But the competition is wide open, just like the DB, the young guys we talked about in the DB room. And what it's going to do is going to make us better from the bottom up. Organizations, they strive when it's built from the bottom up, not top down. And, going through last year, at the end of the year, when we kind of fell off a little bit, the depth wasn't there. Right now, we got young guys that we're creating depth. Some guys have played. So I'm excited about the nucleus and how we're going to build it from the bottom up. And these guys are giving everything they have, and love the work and the effort that they're putting in right now.
Well, it sounds like that. From what I've heard from Coach Mack earlier this week on Cover 2, he talked about how both Gray and Williams have been excellent communicators in the practices that he's been able to watch. Because he gets to watch them all.
Yeah.
And he says they've been excellent communicators. And those were the two that he mentioned. You heard him mention those two and Anthony Orgy. With those. Now, for those that maybe, and I know Zedine he's asking about the green dot. The green dot is going to be Cody Barton. There's no doubt in my mind. I wouldn't even worry about it. He was the green dot in Denver. He'll be the green dot here. But from what I'm hearing is that, yes, it's extremely wide open, but it's almost a 2 to 3 horse race. Now, I wouldn't count out Otis Reese in any of this, but I do think that what they've all talked about, and this may go into your wide receivers, your tight ends, doesn't matter, is that it's all about once the pad comes on. He says it, and then also Brian Callahan said it earlier in the day. Coach Mack said it on our show before they all said it. It's when the pads come on that matters. So at this point, this all sounds well and good, but we'll see how fast that they move, when you're either James Williams or Cedric Gray, which sounds like to me, I would give the edge to Cedric Gray right now. Mm-hmm. But we will see how it actually progresses in camp.
This might be a hot take, but I am kind of warming up to the idea because they have some bodies at the position, and everybody is.
You're starting to think this is one of the deeper positions on the roster, aren't you?
No, not necessarily.
I was thinking it was
not necessarily.
I was going to ride with you on that train.
Well, it could be. I think my hot take is everybody's looking at this as a position battle for linebacker 2. And I don't think there is going to be a set linebacker 2.
You think it's going to be very matchup dependent? Matchup
dependent, package dependent, skill set, whatever you want to say. Like in certain situations, like against the run, maybe Cedric Gray's out there. He seems a little boxier, a little more, I haven't studied his tape as much as I'd like to. I'm going to do that at some point over the course of the summer, but he's more of the get in the gap, make the tackle, boxy kind of linebacker. There may be situations where if they want some speed to get out there and cover, maybe James Williams is that guy. Denard Wilson mentioned like the dime linebacker, which is what a lot of us thought Jamal Adams was going to be. Mm-hmm. That's something that wasn't it Otis Reese that actually played safety too? I know James Williams did, but Otis Reese did as well. It's another body that there's depth for that kind of role. Yep. You've got 2 guys that can run it. I'm not too familiar with Anthony Orji's game. Sounds like he's making an impression at camp. Maybe there's a package where, he's got a skill set that they like, and they may use him in that situation. My thing is, like, hearing him talk about it and knowing – I'm reading a really good book right now by Cody Alexander about kind of building the modern defense from the ground up, and there's a lot of stuff in there that's about – like Kirby Smart's defensive front and how it allows him to use his fastest player at the linebacker position, where that's why you have these guys every year like Trayvon Walker, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, all these guys that come through. It's like he has all these packages because the defensive front works the way he wants it to. And so when you look at the guys rotating behind that, you need hybrid guys because NFL offenses are evolving every year. And the more you can throw at an offense, the better chance you have at confusing it and slowing it down. And so when you think about that in terms of personnel, the situation you want to be in is you want to have hybrid guys. You want to have a guy that you can put out there that the offense doesn't know, is this guy playing linebacker in this package? Is he going to cover our slot receiver? Is he going to drop to a deep third and cover 3 or something like that? Keep offenses guessing. And you can do that. It doesn't have to be one player. I think for a long time we've kind of like obsessed over the idea of like get one guy that can do everything and then you don't know what they're going to do. But you can also achieve that through a deep roster and having multiple personnel that can do multiple things. And so the more I look at this linebacker group, I kind of feel like Cody Barton is the top dog. Cody Barton's the guy that I think you want in the middle of your defense, no matter what's going on. And then I think around him, there's going to be situations where you might play Cedric Gray. There's going to be situations where you might play James Williams. There's going to be situations where you don't even put a second linebacker on the field because you've got extra defensive backs on there. And so I think it kind of – this idea that, oh, my God, who's going to play the second linebacker spot for the Titans? To me – I've come around to I don't really think it's a big deal. I think one of these guys –
I'm starting to believe that too, but I'm also – there's a little bit of me that's like, okay, if you get the second-year jump, then it really didn't matter anyway.
Yeah. I don't know if any of what I just said made sense. I kind of blacked out.
I think it makes sense. While you recover your thoughts, let's go to Denard Wilson on the biggest things that he would correct last year, number 39.
first and foremost, when you look back at last season, the number one thing that hurt us was penalties. If you look at the red zone percentage, you look at third down, like as I did a deep dive into those areas, we got penalties that kept us on the field. There were so many times we were in the red zone on third down, we should have been off, and it was illegal contact. It was pass interference. They gave a team another set of downs to go down there. So the first thing is about penalties. But why do penalties happen? Bad eyes, bad techniques, fundamentals, not getting a line and playing position and leverage and putting your body where you're supposed to be. So it's all encompassing. I think that the penalties is the number one thing. We still have to tackle well. We have to be better in our run fits. We have to be better at shrinking the edges, right? A lot of the plays came, because we didn't set the edge with force and restrict it, make teams run in a phone booth. So there's so many areas that we have to get better at. The good thing about an off season is you can look at yourself, and then you can also look at the scheme and how can you correct the scheme, what's good about the scheme, and how do we tweak the scheme to fit the players that we have. So I think that we have a big picture view of what needs to be done. We've corrected some things that we've been teaching. I'm excited about the 2 new coaches that we have on board. They're outstanding coaches, fundamentally, technique, and the coaches that already here. So, we have an idea of what we want to do. We know the direction in which we want to go. I know I'm going to call the games a little bit differently than I did last year because, you learn by doing. And when you trial by fire, you figure out, what really works and what doesn't. And our biggest thing is putting these guys in position for them to have their best football ahead of them. So if that's putting Sweat as a zero nose, if that's, putting Jeff in different positions, we're going to do that for the team. And, we got a whole big picture view of where we need to go.
Well, if they're going to be putting Jeff in different positions, I would hope that he would get his ass to practice. But
those leaky edges, man.
Yeah,
so I'm
what
telling you.
I thought was interesting about that was specifically, all of it is interesting, but we all know that a lot of times on defense, it's technique driven.
Yeah.
When you get holding penalties and discipline and all that kind of stuff, a lot of it's just technique and focusing in on the fundamentals, which also makes you wonder why didn't you focus on the fundamentals last year, but that's just me. But I thought about the tweaking of the scheme and changing up how he was calling plays because that's been besides Blaine, I think we have been the most vocal, I guess, people's spotlighting that there's an issue with Denard Wilson's play calling scheme.
At least calling it into question.
Mm-hmm. And Blaine would join us in on that because we have talked about the Green Bay game, the Washington game. Then you have Jacksonville come back and do the same thing that Washington did because you didn't make any adjustments. And don't forget the Colts game where they ran for 330-something freaking yards on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I love first off, let's say this. I know I talk a lot about why didn't you do this last year. At least they're doing it this year.
Yeah.
If I had a choice between not doing it last year and still not doing it this year, or doing it last year and doing it not doing it last year and doing it this year, I'm going to take at least they're doing it.
I think
they are very self-aware of their shortcomings, and I think we've already starting to see different approaches at practice.
Yeah,
but I do think that maybe we weren't so far off base like everybody thought we were about Denard Wilson.
Hateful comments when we
did.
And all I said was basically, hey, the defense ain't playing that well either. And I think if we're going to blame Nick Holtz and Brian Callahan, I think it's fair to criticize Denard Wilson some too.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I look back at my analysis of where this team was this time last year, one thing that I learned over the course of Brian Callahan's rookie season was that the newness of everybody on this coaching staff, I'm trying so hard not to burp right now, everybody on this coaching staff, Nick Holtz, Brian Callahan, Denard Wilson, Colt Anderson, all being in positions they hadn't been in before was a much bigger factor than I gave credence to. Like, I thought, these guys have been in the NFL for a while. They know what they're doing. They've seen it firsthand. They're ready for this moment. And I would be curious if you hooked them up to a lie detector test when things started going really sideways halfway through the season, when it just looked like this team sucks and this is just who they are, like how much of it impacted them and how much of that were they truly ready to face? Because it doesn't seem like in hindsight they didn't really anticipate the season going that way, and it felt like there was a lot left on the field that they could have done better from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, I think at a certain point you have to just have to accept about your team. Like to me, it's like they didn't want to accept that, okay, these quarterbacks suck.
They didn't want to accept that Nick Westbrook-Akine was better than Treylon Burks.
They didn't want to accept that NPF and was a train wreck at any point until it was too late.
Yeah.
They didn't want to accept that, Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers were going to do what they did against the Colts against you, and you figured, well, I can blitz because we blitzed him in practice, and we know that kind of, messes him up. But now he's on a much better team with a much better offensive line.
And a much better play caller.
Let's be honest here. And so it's like they didn't – and then they were like, okay, well, our defense was fine. We're number one in points allowed or whatever for that stretch of time. And then – here comes teams just running on you. And it really started in the Detroit game when you saw Jahmyr Gibbs just run off, and you really saw in the Jets game. That's when I saw some bad run fits towards the end.
They in the tackling, there were some really iffy missed tackles in that game. There were some really you
bad run fits, and
angles.
But they didn't try anything different. It was they kept trotting out the same team over and over, hoping that there would be a different result, it felt like. And maybe they felt that there was nothing they could do, but I feel like there's always something you can do.
Yeah. If anything, just for the sake of throwing shit against the wall to see what sticks. I mean, I understand you don't want to just abandon your bread and butter, but at a certain point, you got to do something, I would be really curious off camera, off microphone.
Like, at what point did you realize you guys are just fucked this year?
Yeah,
you are boned.
I would, and is that a part of it too, where you're just like, we're fucked anyway? I'm not going to try and put like new film out there for offensive coordinators to break down, or, you hear stuff like that sometimes where it's like, I know we suck, so I'm not going to put my best plays on tape. And you just wonder, like, is that stuff true? If ever there were a situation where it could be, I could understand it for how the season went last year. I would also, man, I want to know what happened with Ernest Jones IV, because we lauded that trade at the time for them to flip him and pick up the extra fourth. Is it a fourth,
yes.
I think? But after seeing the quality of the run defense drop off.
Yeah, but that turned into just, FYI, turned into Gunnar Helm, I think.
Yeah, but still, like, to see the fall off, like, I just wonder what the thinking in the building was for that. I wonder how the coaching staff really felt about Kenneth Murray. I think we know how they felt about Kenneth Murray by the fact that they
traded him.
They traded him. But, I don't know, man. I want to know, did things just go by the wayside so you kind of take a step back?
But then I hate thinking that they did that, because here's the thing. That's not what I want my coaches to do.
It's not, no, and it's...
I understand there's a human element to it, but then that's not... What you're suggesting, the possibility of, is not necessarily a good thing.
It's not.
I just want to be clear. We're not advocating or making excuses that this is a good thing. Oh, well, it's okay that they kind of gave up. Because to me, it's not. But I just don't know why. I just don't know why we got the same product every week, other than it's just the players. But then it has to go back to the coaches. But to me, everything they're doing this year. Everything they're doing this year. What the coaches' new approaches have been, the new GM, what the players they brought in free agency in the draft, the players that they let go, all say last year wasn't good enough from the coaching staff, and you're 3-14. Of course, not everything's good enough. But like, we fucked up.
Yeah.
But we learned, because you heard about the trial by fire from Denard Wilson, that comment by him. They learned, and that's all you can really ask for from a person that you don't know, from a stranger that's really putting on a show for entertainment from you. At least you learned.
Yeah.
Shannon Tatum learned to be a good actor, even though he was a really terrible actor. Now he's really hilarious and everything.
Yeah.
He learned what he was good at when it comes to acting.
Yeah.
Take your shirt off and dance for old women and stuff, and then make comedies with Jonah Hill and all this kind of stuff. Like, he learned. And these guys can learn. Doesn't mean that they're going to be good coaches.
Yeah.
But we got to allow at least the time to see what they learned from last year and put it into practice.
And I'm just running through basically a thought exercise here, just weighing the scenarios. We know what the results were. What were the potential explanations for it? And it's that, you know what, maybe Denard Wilson is a good coach, but maybe the season moved a little faster than he expected in his first year as defensive coordinator, and he didn't realize when he needed to make the adjustments quickly enough. Maybe there's a scenario where it is this staff just giving up because maybe they wanted Cam Ward. They wanted the number 1 overall pick, and they said, let's just tank the season. There was a popular theory out about that. And then, maybe there is the scenario that they are in over their head. I'm just trying to look at all of the potential explanations, because I do think that there was an issue coaching the defense last year.
There was.
And I don't think it's unfair to say that.
It's not. You're a 3-14 team. Everything's on the table. Speaking of, one of the things that we do know was wrong with this team, the special teams was definitely wrong with this team. Even though I do think that Cole Anderson's unit got better, it wasn't good enough in key spots. They have made the plan. They made the change to go to John Fossil.
Let Fossil bone.
His was a very unique press conference.
Yeah,
because he was asked really good questions. He complimented the questions, or sometimes he called them comments that he was asked, and then he was like, "I don't really know how to answer that." And then he proceeds to answer it, and so it felt like coach speak, but it wasn't really coach speak. He got really insightful answer. It was just weird. I want to go to number 20. No, not number 24. Let's go to number 25 for John Fossil. It is on fixing a unit that has had that's been a total disaster.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's all about,
pause this real quick.
When we got here, what did
I should phrase this in a different way. So that's a my bad. He was asked about last year's failures, but he's also asked about the history of the Tennessee Titans special teams just being utterly disgraceful ever since, what's his name? Craig Ackerman has been around. Okay, now you can proceed.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's all about, when we got here, what it is right now and the players we got. I watched a little bit of tape, last year just to get a little feel for the players, but I didn't want to watch too much, to be honest with you, because I wanted all of them to fairly have a clean slate. And I wanted the work that I put in with them to be their evaluation and kind of their judgment on how I felt about them as players, because every coach sometimes asks players to do different things. So I didn't want anything that I saw on tape to be held against them that maybe is something that I wouldn't do. So it's a fresh start for me. It's a fresh start for them. And whatever's happened in the past, good or bad, doesn't matter. So I'm excited about whatever is to come.
So I thought it was interesting. Craig Ackerman, he was pretty much a sad sack of crap at a podium. Cole Anderson was clearly in over his head in most cases. I felt really bad for him.
Yeah.
And, this has been – last year was obviously the worst special teams it's been. It's been bad under Craig Ackerman. No, even when the roster was good for the Tennessee Titans, it was still a subpar unit. Yeah. Always has been for the longest time, it feels like.
Despite J-Rob spending all those draft picks on primarily special teams players.
Yeah, don't forget that. So I look at it and I go – I think it's good. I think a little bit of that is a lie, because I do think he's watched a lot of last year's special teams tape.
Yeah, I mean,
you would have to know how bad, and maybe he didn't watch a lot of it this year, looking at specific players. So maybe they all passed it around the NFL, making fun of the Tennessee Titans special teams, kind of like sharing the funny Instagram reels. But like, I would have to say that a coach of his caliber probably did watch a lot of the special teams last year, and maybe he turned it off at some point. He's like, I've seen enough. Maybe it's after the first game he goes, I've seen enough.
I mean, think about how many special teams reps there are in every game. Like, it wouldn't take long to sit down and just bang out the entire season. I would want to get as much of a feel for what I've got as possible and understanding that thing. I get his point.
Yeah.
I would still want to watch the tape, and I would still want to approach OTAs, training camp, that sort of thing as, hey, last year, we're not going to hold that against you. We're going to see what you got now.
Yeah.
I get that philosophy, but brother, watch the tape.
Yeah, because there's a lot of players you can go ahead and just cross off your list if you watch last year's tape.
But it's also interesting because I do feel like special teams got better for one when they added Justin Hardy, who pour one out, man. That one that sucks. But I do think that special teams got better throughout the season. So as you get a lot of these young guys that were playing special teams like Bryce Oliver and James Williams, like I feel like there is still something there to work with, you know?
I like that he talks about his game. He was asked about game-changing keys, but I liked his answer. Players have to be allowed and encouraged when coaching in special teams, and an element of freedom without fear of consequence. Because he's talking about, Blaine talks about getting ear-holed because in one of his first special teams plays he ever did, because he just ran straight, because that's what the coach told him to. They didn't tell him to go straight. You got to be at this point. And so he ran straight, gets ear-holed. And then he's like, okay, well, I learned my lesson, so now I'm going to zig and zag. So, like, you still get to the end result, but you had the freedom on how you get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because it feels like sometimes special teams could be so robotic that's why they're not getting any kind of explosive plays or any kind of game-changing plays, because they're just trying to, just do what they're coached, which is from two uncreative coaches, or B, they're too scared that they're going to screw up, and they screw up anyway, so they play it safe.
You said something there that struck me. It's uncreative. Like, I feel like there is an approach from some teams to special teams that, like, this is a play we just got to go out and get it over with and just don't fuck up at a catastrophic level. But I don't know how much like true innovation is really going on special teams. And I'm not saying like, oh, well, damn, Colt Anderson should have been reinventing special teams. But I do think that kind of thinking can lead to a situation where there is a little bit of going through the motions out there, and you just try to, keep from giving up a touchdown or something like that. And I do think that things can get a little stagnant, and the right team can exploit that.
I want to talk about this. I thought this was his most interesting insight, and this is going to be number 31. And he talks about what makes a good returner. He talks about punt returners and kick returners. And I thought this was super interesting insight from John Fossil. Is he in there? It's number 31, Jackson.
Did he come back?
I thought he did.
The punt returner, the number one is the ability to track and catch the football. And then I think there's something that you can see on tape, but you can't coach, which is the returner's ability to see a return unfold and run it and hit it where that is. Because a lot of times the big returns, and I was fortunate to have Turpin the last 3 years, a lot of times the big returns hit where you didn't exactly anticipate them or draw them up. So a returner's vision to kind of, okay, here's the idea, but this isn't demanded where you got to go because it just might not unfold that way. So, but the ball skills is number one for punt return catching, and then a vision is a huge part, which I can't do a lot of, but I can give them the freedom to go where they see it. And then kick return used to be not a big ball skill job, but a good tackle breaking job, where I feel like now with the rules, the ability for a kick returner to track the football and catch harder balls, which you're going to see a lot more this year than I think even we did last year. The ball tracking on kickoff returners is going to be huge. So you don't just put back there your normal big back that can run vertical and tackle break. He's got to be able to punt return, track balls, and catch dirty balls out of the sky, and then have the courage to run it, 10 guys coming at you on kickoff, which is a big part. So punt return, I would say ball catching and vision. Kick return, I would say ball catching and courage.
Man,
does that get you a little horny?
It does, man, because you frame it that way, and I'm thinking back to like all the times under Craig Aukerman we saw the returner just like run straight into the traffic kind of deal. And it's like you mentioned that coaching point, the lack of flexibility. Is like, this is where this thing is supposed to be blocked up. This is where you're supposed to run. But hearing Fossil talk about the freedom and the vision and trusting the vision, like number one job is tracking and catching the ball and then flipping to see where a play might unfold.
And not everybody has this ability.
And that is something that I feel like through I'll just hold myself accountable on this. Like talking about punt returners, I'm looking for guys that have wiggle, that have juke, that quick twitch, can kind of move, juke people, lateral, side to side, that sort of thing, to react to the coverage that's coming their way. But to think about it from a vision standpoint, to kind of calibrate instantly in that moment from tracking the ball, catching it, securing it, and then taking a look and just seeing like how fast you have to process to see where a play could be made and then reacting to it like that and getting going. What a skill that is to have. And I don't know, like, when's the last time the Titans had a guy that
Pac-Man Jones
you felt like had that sort of creativity and flexibility? The first name that came to mind, Pac-Man Jones.
That's the only guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Adoree was supposed to be that, and he never really showcased that.
Yeah.
Wasn't really given a lot of opportunities
because he kept dropping the ball. He kept fumbling.
So it's like this whole mixture of it was just such a unique way, especially the new kickoff rule where he's like, it used to be about breaking tackles. Now it's about just courage.
Yeah. So
I thought that was so interesting.
So who do you think fits the bill on the Titans roster to fill both of those roles?
Yeah, so I don't know, to be honest with you, because now here's where I'm at. I think there's a lot of guys that probably have the courage.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I think Khalil Mullins has the courage, but he also kind of falls into that, the big guy, the big running back thing that he's not really looking for. I wonder, and I know I've been really down on the player that I'm about to mention.
Okay.
But I wonder if this is the path that Xavier Restrepo can take because of his ability on film at wide receiver. I wonder if his vision and his ability to see the field from the wide receiver perspective so well, maybe that is the path that because they have been trying him at returner. I wonder if there's something there to that.
I think maybe on kickoffs where he talks about the courage. You talk about Restrepo, one of his strengths being his nose for weak spots in coverages, and thinking about it in those kind of terms where maybe it's not about the breakaway speed, maybe it's not the immediate transition from tracking the ball, securing the ball, looking at how things are laid out, but it's seeing it from the start, finding that lane quicker, maybe reducing the amount of time you actually have to process. And it's more reliant upon your willingness to just go out there and face the tidal wave that's approaching
and think about his middle of the field catches and how he's played pro ball. That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
I do wonder if maybe there is something to that. I think this TJ Sheffield kid.
Have you watched him yet? I haven't.
I've watched just a little bit of it, but I kind of see a little bit of Turpin ability there. Not to the. See, now he has me. What Bones Fossil has me doing is double thinking the whole punt return. How I viewed punt returns and returners.
The name that came to mind first for me was Chimere Dike.
I could see it, but I do wonder how he sees the field.
I think he's underrated in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a film piece coming up on him tomorrow at some point. And I think one of the things that people undersell with him is his vision.
Yeah.
He does have an ability. I think it's lends itself more to playing wide receiver to manipulate the coverage. I think he's very quick, twitchy. He can fake out and then break in, and the defensive back reacts and is out of position. I don't know how that works on a punt return situation, but I do think you see him on a lot of these crossers, similar routes to what Restrepo ran with Cam Ward at Miami, which I do think is part of the reason DK appealed to this coaching staff and this regime so much, is because he runs that stuff too, but he's got the metrics, the testing. I think it's something that DK has a nose for. He's very good at finding space between defenders, and I would not be surprised at all if they were to give him a look at punt returner.
I know he has been doing the returning stuff as well. It's been him, Prochet, TJ Sheffield, Xavier Restrepo, and I believe Jaquan Jackson. I believe I'm missing someone else.
Damn, now I don't sound as smart. That's already been out there. Shit.
But, I mean, nobody knows why he's out there. Then he's fast.
It's what I get for taking a vacation.
There you go. Did you watch J.C. Latham on Bus with the Boys?
I did not. No.
Okay.
I'm not opposed
it's
to
probably, listen, it's probably a good thing that you didn't.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if your boner would ever go away. You'd be you'd be a mega Red Hulk. You'd be like the Megazord. You may be the Optimus Prime of Red Hulks.
I would be paler than I already am because all the color would leave my face because all the blood would be down at the Red Hulk.
Yeah.
At the border.
Yeah. So J.C. Latham heading into week 3 or heading into the Monday Night Football game, he took it upon himself to go to the other position group leaders and the vets and say, we need an all hands on deck offensive side of the ball meeting.
Okay.
He's 21 years old.
Yeah. Well, we talked about him. We're talking about leadership roles last season. We're like, it's J.C. Latham, but he's, your offensive tackle.
It did not take long for him to take that over.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he took it by the reins. He did it. He's down to, I think, now 336 pounds, and he played upwards. He said 360 on the podcast, upwards of 370, closer to 370 in the 360s last year.
He's a big old hog.
Both him and Brian Callen both said in separate occasions that they attribute his rookie wall to his weight.
It's conditioning.
And he said, man, he fucked up. He got embarrassed. He's changed it. He's down to 336 pounds right now.
That's crazy. I mean, he's still he's such a mountain of a man.
He said that it affected everything from him being able to get to the second level. It affected his endurance, all this stuff. It affected him.
Well, I mean, there were times that we were watching the tape and saying, is he hurt? Because he's not, he's just not moving.
He just looks gassed.
He's not moving as quickly as he was early on in the season. And that would explain it.
But that is true leadership. Like those two examples are true leadership. And he just turned 22. Yeah. Like, guys, the Tennessee Titans got them a real one. I know that a lot of people were down on him, that he's a bust at left tackle. And, he's obviously a bust at left tackle because they're moving him to right tackle and all this stuff. If he would have probably showed, if they had a camera or a crystal ball and he showed up at 336, they probably would, and they may not have signed Dan Moore to a $50 million contract or whatever, how much it was off the top of my head, but it was way too much money. And maybe they wouldn't have signed Dan Moore because I think that at 336, we're talking about a guy that has upwards of 24 to 29, 28 pounds off his body.
Yeah. Yeah. You think he's going to move a little bit better because of that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to think about. Maybe they flipped Dan Moore to right tackle.
It may be. So speaking of leadership, Jeffrey Simmons is the only player to not show up to OTAs in any capacity. There's players that didn't show up to the open portion of practice because they're inside the building for various reasons. Not there. And he may have an excuse. He was not there last year.
We don't know.
It is optional.
Mm-hmm.
It is a right by him that was negotiated by the CBA that, hey, these are voluntary. You don't have to show up. But I feel like the optics are pretty fucking terrible. And it is just another example of a lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I think it is another example of not reading the room. I think it's just another example where I struggle to call him a true leader of high caliber. He may be a leader in some people's eyes. I'm sure he's got his followers and all this stuff. But I struggle with it because the play has been all right, but it hasn't been great. Mm-hmm. And he is treating everything like everything's all hunky-dory and everything's great instead of coming in an offseason where leadership and accountability and growth and camaraderie has been the prevailing themes throughout this entire offseason. He has chosen, for reasons unknown, could be personal reasons, could be, real personal reasons that I'm going on vacation. Mm-hmm. And we're not saying that he's not working because he's obviously working out. We see the social media videos. You'd like to see him in the Titans social media videos working out with his team.
Yeah.
But I do struggle with this whole thing. Is just that's another example of a lack of a self-awareness from a guy that has shown this numerous times over the years not to have it. And it's just, I've been struggling with it, Stoney, because I get that the logical part of me says that, well, one side of the brain says, well, it's optional. The other side of the brain says, read the fucking room.
Yeah, it's optics. You said the word optics. That's what it is. And to your point,
Jeff just posted another picture, I guess, of him working out, just not here with his team.
To your point, I think he does deserve the benefit of the doubt here. We don't know what's going on, why he chose not to. We probably never will. We don't know. We're not in the locker room. We don't know how the players respond to him as a leader. But when you're talking about public perception, it doesn't really matter what we don't know. What matters is what we do know as fans. And what we do know as fans is that he's the only one that's not there in any form or capacity. And that's bad optics. When you're looking at where this team is at right now, man, it feels like every single second this team can spend together and bond is an opportunity for this team to grow. They're not in a position, to me, in my opinion, where guys can skip out on this kind of stuff. And yes, technically it is voluntary. I get all that. He may have a great excuse. I'm not trying not to rail on him for this, but from an optic standpoint for public perception, it just doesn't look good. And it would be different if this was like the first time something like this had happened, where it just kind of seems like he doesn't understand what the perception of himself is going to be in the public eye. It's like he doesn't get that. But it feels like we're having a conversation like this about this particular player once every few months.
Yeah, and whether it's something that he says to the media in the locker room after a game, whether it's stuff.
Was he the one that said nobody runs on the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, and then the Green Bay Packers ran all over him.
Yeah.
And then it was after the Texans game, they won all this game, then they had a victory hangover when they lost the next game.
So, I mean, like, at a certain point, I think it does become fair to call into question, like, okay, what is the real mindset of this guy that you were counting on? He's like your best veteran at this point. Like, he's a guy, and if I were a coach, I would want him there.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where the issue for me lies is twofold. I blame the Tennessee Titans and the fan base a little bit for this.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I mean. So we all know that getting rid of Kevin Byard, getting rid of Derrick Henry, getting rid of Ryan Tannehill, for whatever reason, getting rid of is just the phrase I'm using. I mean, obviously some of those guys have free agency, some of those guys aren't playing. A lot of leaders left.
Yeah.
And instead of filling that void with a bunch of people, they tried to fill that void, that leadership vacuum, and tried to force Jeffrey Simmons into a role that he's not fit for. Because I think Tim's a Titans fan, and I said this today. He said this on Twitter. He's like, I'm not out on Jeffrey Simmons, the player. I'm out on Jeffrey Simmons, the leader.
Yeah.
And over here, Football Fred says he's not the face of the franchise. He was just the best option they've had in recent years. And I think there's some truth to that.
I think so too, yeah.
And I think from a marketing stand, and I think there is a little bit of been coddling from the fan base.
Sure.
I think there's been a lot of coddling from the staff and the marketing, and I'm talking about the marketing PR and the ownership. I'm talking about everybody, not just coaching staff. And I think it's allowed Jeffrey Simmons to think that he's something that he's not, and I do think there is the potential for greatness in Jeffrey Simmons. We have seen that potential in past games. We haven't seen it consistent enough, but when you're talking about a season, again, the overall theme, right? The overall theme of this whole offseason is camaraderie, team building, building up leaders, team captains, all these young guys, bringing everything together. The biggest piece of your puzzle, because like you said, for better or for worse, right now, he is the best player on this team.
Yeah.
Whether you want to say that it says a lot more about the roster than it does about Jeffrey Simmons, I'm not going to argue with you. But what I'm saying is that he's the best player, and he's not there. He's the guy that you would build as a franchise, as a face of the franchise, as this leader. That's what they have all called him.
Yes.
And he's not there. And I just think that it's such a terrible look. And I think it's an even worse look that when reached for comment by PK on the article that really just told us all this, that his agent didn't even respond to it. That's an even worse look.
It is. Yeah.
That you didn't even go to bat for your client to try to be like, oh, well, he's got personal issues, or we're choosing to do this way, and it's all good and blah, blah. And I get that Brian Callahan said, hey, I'm not worried about him. He'll be ready on Sundays.
Well, yeah.
That's fine, but you just had Chad Brinker and Mike Bergonzi go on the record and say, we're not looking for guys that are just in it for Sundays. We're looking for guys who enjoy the work from Monday through Saturday.
Yeah, and he's not there, which would appear as though he does not fit that criteria as laid forth by Chad Brinker and Mike Bergonzi.
And listen, he's going to get to training camp, and he's going to have taken notes and down everybody's names and call everybody in the media out like we're some big bad guys. But don't give us the stuff to talk about.
Which, by the way, is not a characteristic that you see of many leaders, I would say. Brian Callahan has to say that to a certain extent. I do think that coaching staff believes it. I mean, from what I've heard, it was described to me as you can tell Jeffrey Simmons once and boom, he's got it. You're not worried about him picking up the defense at all. Like, he is a pro's pro when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I get, like, maybe as far as on the field goes, yeah, you're not worried about him missing these reps. But you said it best. Like, this is an offseason where you're talking about, from a culture standpoint, ripping this thing down to the studs and building it back up and developing leaders from a foundational level. And if I am a coach, if I'm in that Titans front office, I come back to the idea, if I'm putting myself in their shoes, that's a guy that I want there to help guide the building of this culture, of this foundation.
Because he can come there and not really compete, right?
Exactly.
Like, you can train on a side. They'd probably allow you to train on the side field. I'm sure they would make compromises and say, hey, we just want you here. Because not only that,
absolutely.
Talk about, you remember Denard Wilson talking about all those penalties and everything that have led to third downs and drives being extended.
Yeah.
Hello, the biggest guy that gets penalized besides Jarvis Brownlee Jr., but the guy that's been penalized even under the Vrabel era is Jeffrey Simmons. And the stuff they're doing is to help the scoreboard, is to kind of help shine a light on, hey, you jumped off sides. Here's some points, and all this kind of stuff. And he's not there. Here's the hardest thing for me is that you preach self-accountability, you preach this camaraderie and all this stuff. This staff has to be accountable too. And I don't know what the conversations were behind the scenes, but if this staff wasn't really pushing really, really hard with the heavy emphasis that you need to be here, we know we can't make you, but man, you really need to be here. You're going to be the only guy, and he still didn't show up. But if they didn't even do that, that says a lot about them too, the staff.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Can we put on our tinfoil hats and do a little reckless speculation here today?
Well, if it's about the contract situation, Blaine kind of already threw that out there.
No, I'm curious to hear that. I didn't get to listen to all of Cover 2 today, but I heard you guys referring to what Blaine said. I just missed what he said to begin with. I was going to bring up the trade rumors, but
we had a guy named Gil bring that up today.
Not from the perspective, everybody seems to talk about this from the Titans' point of view that, you can get some capital. He's an older player. You can go ahead and move him. It's a rich defensive tackle class. You could find his replacement theoretically, get some picks basically. But what if it's Jeffrey Simmons that could potentially want a trade? Because
he's seen DeAndre Hopkins go to Kansas City. He's seen Derrick Henry have second life over at the Ravens. You just saw his draft classmate AJ Brown win a Super Bowl. I mean, it's not being. Listen, the best thing Tennessee Titans can do right now for a player is to get them out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Cam Ward is going to be the future, but if I'm in your mind, tinfoil fat, if I'm Jeffrey Simmons, I'm saying, get me out of here.
It's his 7th year. It's a sometimes we talk about him as if he's, approaching his second contract or something. He's not a young player anymore. And I could absolutely understand, because he is a good defensive tackle. I don't want to make it sound like I don't think he's good.
He's getting paid like one.
I do think he's a really good defensive tackle in the NFL. And at a certain point in your career, you look at this Titans roster, you tell me how close they are to winning a Super Bowl, how quickly they can turn this thing around. I think it makes all the sense in the world from the player's perspective to look at this situation and say, I'd rather go somewhere where I've got a chance because I've only got a few years left. I want to go somewhere where
he's
maybe I can.
He's probably got 5-6 years, I would say.
Yeah, so
at his position with the injuries he's had, I would say that's probably. And now if he goes somewhere where there's a rotation, then obviously he can extend it. But if he's going to be the main guy somewhere, I mean, with all the injuries and all this stuff, that adds up over time, especially in the position where you're constantly handing the dirt, bent over, all that kind of stuff. It takes a toll. It just does.
So I'm not saying this is not. I preface this with saying it's reckless speculation. This is not sourced information or anything like that. I'm just saying from the perspective of the player, I think we're thinking about the trade rumors from the wrong side, so to speak, because I do think it would make a lot of sense if Jeffrey Simmons wanted out of Tennessee.
I wouldn't be surprised. And also just because if he's so online, if he even heard us talk about it on the radio or any of the radio stations talk about the potential that, hey, if you're looking to gain some draft capital, you could trade Jeffrey Simmons. He's your best guy to trade. And this is a deep defensive tackle class. He's probably thinking, well, I'll show them, and I'm sure that's how he sounds too. I'll show them.
He's going to kick your ass.
Yes.
He's just in case he's listening to this.
That's a terrible Jeffrey Simmons
I have
impression.
always said he's the best defensive tackle in NFL history.
Listen, if let me say this. Here's a direct message, I'll look in the camera, Jeffrey Simmons. If you're listening to this podcast, turn it off. What are you doing? You're a multi-millionaire. Why you listen to football and other efforts? Like, give me a break. I mean, like that's one of my issues, that he's so online that he may actually probably has a Google alert for YouTube's transcripts that say, "Oh, they said Jeff Simmons."
I'm going to say something that might be controversial, so maybe I should look into the camera too, to Jeffrey Simmons. Most of us are fucking stupid, so you really shouldn't be concerning yourselves with what we're talking about on our shows. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
But again, he's so online. He listens to everything. I'm sure that he maybe has even heard someone on the NFL Network or ESPN or something bring up this, and maybe he's in his feelings over it. I don't know.
Yeah.
He seems like a guy that's a very, in his feelings, the way that he's acted, the way that he's gotten penalties. He's a very emotional person. Listen, I'm a very fly off the handle person too. I don't think that's any kind of bad indictment of anybody to be a fly off the handle person, unless it ends in criminal stuff. But at the end of the day, being a little emotional, whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, get with your team. Like, I'm sorry. I know that it's voluntary, but at the end of the day, just go be with your team, man. You're the only one. Yeah. The only one. It's a little bit different last year, even though I disagreed with it because you had so much newness. It's a little bit different last year because you had like 10 people miss OTAs.
Yeah.
Dude, you're the only fucking one. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's not a good look. From just a bottom line optic standpoint, it's not a good look.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, that's just where it's at.
He's going to kick our asses. Jackson, too, probably.
Hey, listen, Jackson Williams, he lives in, where do you live? Give out your address to Big Jeff.
Yeah.
125 Burhalter Lane.
There you go. Here's my thing. That must be someone else's address.
Yeah, that's your address. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see the news tomorrow.
Here's what I always say. If he attacks me, if any celebrity or any athlete ever attacks me over something I said, first off, get a life. Second off, get sued. I'm suing your ass. Yeah, I know I can't beat you in a ring, but I'll beat you in court.
Yeah, I'm with it.
I will retire happy. I welcome it. Just fucking beat the shit out of me.
Be like the scene from Pineapple Express where they bust down the door.
Yeah,
and Danny McBride goes flying back. His head crashes into the sink.
Yeah. Hey, listen, he lived. He wore a neck brace.
I was going to say,
but I'll get that back, baby.
Yeah,
like that's all I'm at.
That would be so wild if that's what all of this resulted in. It's like
me becoming a millionaire paraplegic.
Yeah, they're wheeling you around at training camp in a wheelchair. Yeah,
because I own the team.
You own the team. Yeah,
joke's on you, and then I'm trading you.
Oh, man. Yeah.
All right. It's nice to be back. Jackson, how would you grade the show?
Boys, just for the thought of Zach getting his ass beat, an A+.
There you go. There you go.
I can't get another concussion. If you're watching this, Jeffrey Simmons, and you're going to come beat our asses, don't hit me in the head, please. The next,
punch me in the gut as hard as you can.
I've had 5 concussions that I know of. I've probably had more. My brain's already starting to get a little foggy with the memory and stuff. Like, I'm one good punch in the face away from just losing it all.
Sunday, Pro Wrestling Symphony. It's a new Nashville-based wrestling federation. Is that
promotion?
Wrestling promotion. They are going to be at the Brooklyn Bowl at 2 p.m. There are tickets available. They're only like $20-something for floor tickets.
Yeah.
And really, you can get a balcony ticket and a couple free drinks for like $70-something I saw today.
Yeah.
We're going to be there. It's a wrestling
Brooklyn
show.
Bowl.
At the Brooklyn Bowl.
Cool. Yeah.
And really, if you're going to do a show at the Brooklyn Bowl, you should call it the Brooklyn Brawl.
You should.
For that one day.
I wonder, but then you'd have to book the Brooklyn Brawler.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he ain't doing anything.
Yeah, I don't know. He might have. Did he pass?
I don't know.
We'll have to.
D-Jack is going to be there for those that are WWE NXT. But looks like a really good card. Our wives, we've somehow convinced our wives to go.
Well, I just ask. I don't know how your wife is, but my wife is just like, is another wife going?
Yeah.
And then I said, yes, I think so.
Well, I told my wife that Aura was already going.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Aura was going at the time that I said that. I was under the impression that she was.
There was another wife that was going that has since had to back out.
Well, there you go. We got
Aura
the
said
wives.
yes. And then your wife said yes, too. So
I can't wait. I think it's going to be awesome.
It's funny because Brandon Vick of Nashville Movie Dispatch is going to be there as well. And he said the same thing. He's like, I just want to go to see pro wrestling in Brooklyn Bowl. Like, what an interesting venue it is for a wrestling show.
It was great. I saw the Hives there.
Really?
Yeah, and it was really so freaking good. I have some videos of it. Like, they went down the path of the bottom floor. They went into the crowd, and he's like coming right into the camera frame and everything. Yeah.
So 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
this Sunday, we're going to be there. Buy a ticket. Come say hey. I want to
come buy us beer.
Yeah.
Listen, if you come say hey to me, you better have a beer in your hand for me.
If there's anybody listening that was familiar with the Unofficial Titans podcast, Outspoken Owen Reed's going to be there as well.
That is going to be a trip.
It is going to be a trip.
Jackson is going to a different redneck event. He's going to the NASCAR show.
Yee! Bunch of hillbillies.
We are a bunch of hillbillies on this podcast. That will do it for us. Stoney Keeley at Stoney Keeley on Twitter. I'm Zach Lyons at the Zach Lyons on Twitter. There's been football and other F words. For Jay Wills behind the glass, you have just been effed.